But I've heard that there's a lot of that kind of thing happening in Pattaya, or has been happening in Pattaya recently. And that's the kind of place that Pattaya is. You know, Pattaya is a place where you'll find lots of Billy No Mates. Guys, it's a warm welcome back to the channel. This is Alpha Omega Occasionally. On this occasion, you find us in Pattaya, but not the Pattaya you probably know about. This is Centara, I think they can pronounce it, Mirage Hotel in Pattaya. And if you've never stayed here, you owe it to yourself. This should be on your bucket list. Look at that. Look at that. Anyway, guys, we're going to have a talk about life in Pattaya for those expats who decide to live here. Some will have a good time, some will go through hell. But how it works out for you is entirely up to you. There's lots of things you got to consider about moving to Thailand, but moving to Pattaya, it's absolutely idyllic. But if you've got the Spondulux, you can have an idyllic lifestyle. If you haven't got the Spondulux, you won't. But that applies everywhere. But there's a special kind of depression that you can find yourself in if you come here and you're locked into a very meager existence, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this one. Yeah. This is the next day. We're on the beach just adjacent to the Mirage Hotel, Centara Hotel. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. The beach is a little bit exclusive. I'm not saying it's completely exclusive, but there's a security guard there as you come down the steps. And it's at the very tail end of the beach here in Pattaya, more or less, give or take. I'll just swing around, you can see what I mean. So yeah, that's the security guard there behind me. And this is what I mean by exclusive. But you see, you're in an exclusive club when you come to Thailand, because there's not many people in the world that can do what you or I are doing. To retire to paradise. Tomorrow's the 1st of October. Is it not the 1st of October? Well, I think it is. Today's the 20th. No. We're a couple of days away from the 1st of October and look where we are. So that's a very positive thing. You've achieved that in your life. I've achieved this in my life. There's lots of people who just aspire to this and can never make it. But you see, once you've made it, then you're in a precarious position of losing it all. It wouldn't be the first time that you've heard of people jumping. What are they called? The Pattaya Flying Club. I heard that mentioned, and it's not meant to be derogatory, but that's what people are calling it. And apparently I don't live here. You know, I don't live in Pattaya. There's been a spate of people, you know, doing those things. And things would have to be really, really, really bad for you to bring it to that. But I can see how it can happen, because I can tell you, I've woken up here this morning in a beautiful 4/5-star hotel with my wife and son in a wonderfully air-conditioned room. It's so air-conditioned actually that the lens of the camera fogged up when we came out. That doesn't happen in the air conditioning back home. That air conditioning was Baltic. Make you wonder how they make a profit. You know, I don't know. I'm not a hotelier. Never will be at this stage. But you know, they know how to charge. Put it that way. An ice cream in there, small cone, 145 baht. That's more than $4 for an ice cream. But look, they're there to make money, and that's what they're there to do. And if you're here without money, what would you do? You won't be waking up in a 4/5-star hotel. You won't be waking up in a 20,000 baht a month condominium. You'd be waking up in something far short of that. Just imagine, and I've done this by the way, but I haven't done it here. I've done it back home. I lived in squalor at one stage. And I know what it's like to wake up in the morning when you've just as much money as you need to live the basic existence, to feed yourself, to basically clothe yourself. When I say basically, you know what I mean. You've got the one pair of shoes, or you got the well. Look, I'm not gonna. I'm sounding over dramatic, but put it this way: you're living in Pattaya. You're paying 5,000, 6,000 baht a month for a room, and you're on 45,000 baht per month. That's a limited income, and it's great when you have a lot of money, because I could wake up this morning, if I had lots and lots and lots of money, I could go wherever I want to go. I could have a boat, I could go out in the sea and pass me time fishing. I could do lots of things. But when you're on a limited income, it really curtails you. And if you couple that with the isolation of living here, it's like a vice that closes in. I know this because I've experienced it, not necessarily here, but I know what I'm talking about. And for it to live like that here, I can understand why guys. Huh? Okay, Harry. Okay. I understand why guys do what they do when they've reached the end of their tether. I can tell you, and I'm not too proud to admit it. I've alluded to it before. I suffer from depression from time to time, albeit circumstantial. But sometimes, just sometimes, well, put it this way, I wasn't cut out to be alone. I remember times I lived on my own, and I'm not the most sociable person in the world. Well, I wasn't the most sociable person in the world, and you might think that that's a contradiction because I appear to be sociable on YouTube. I mean, I envy people who can live on their own, live a solo life without getting married. But for me, it's very difficult, because if there's one thing that will put me, and I'm speaking about me personally, and maybe you can identify with this, there's one thing that puts me on the periphery of society, it's being alone. You wake up on your own, you go shopping on your own. There are days when I was on my own that I could count on one hand the amount of times I spoke to another individual. And that was usually in a shop buying something and saying, good morning, thank you, how much is that? That kind of thing. And one of the worst aspects of being alone, and this is what it's like anywhere in the world, but it's magnified 100 times here. And one of the things that will remind you that you're on your own, it's when you wake up in the morning, you have your shower, you have your coffee or whatever it is you have, and then you go out to do what you're going to do. And in this case here, what are you going to do? If you're on a limited income, what are you going to do? Are you going to walk up and down the beach? Are you going to hang on as long as possible before you go into a bar? And when you do that, you walk up and down the beach, you're trying not to spend money. This is the thing, you see. You're trying not to spend money. This is what I said at the beginning. If you had money, it wouldn't matter. But you're trying not to spend money, and you're walking up and down the beach, and you see other people in couples, and you see families together, and you're on your Sweeney. And you get maybe you have a positive thought. You go for a swim, and you pass some time doing that. But after your swim, you sit on the beach and you say, okay, I'll go back and have a shower. And that brings you up maybe, hopefully, till about midday, let's say. Then you go back into your room and you notice that the cup of coffee you had this morning is still on the table, because nobody else was there to clean it up. Some people might relish their solitude. I relish solitude from time to time, but that's only because I can dip in and out of my cohabitable situation. I'd much prefer to be with somebody else, because when you're with someone and you get on with them, and you might think that I don't, but I do get on with my wife. Not all the time, but I do generally. And at times like this, we work with each other and we cohabitate. And having the ability the opportunity to converse with another human being keeps my head right. I couldn't, and I know this. How long would I last living in Pattaya on a budget? And most of us are on a budget. No, you know, I'm not talking to millionaires here. So 40, 50,000 baht. As I said, you got to watch what you spend, and that means that you got to walk up and down the beach or go for a walk. Keep the spending to a minimum, because what do you do? The worst part of the day is the morning time when you're killing time. Then the evening comes along and you might have something to eat. You might meet a friend of yours that you met who's on vacation here, and you have a beer with him at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever it may be. And you do that for a couple of weeks, and then he goes home because he's only on holidays, and you're back on your own again. And it's the loneliness that seizes you like a vice in a place like this. Because remember, you're out of your comfort zone. You've no family or friends here. You're on your own. And people don't realise the impact and the sheer feeling of anxiety. I used to get a metal taste in my mouth. You know, we all know what that is, from anxiety. I remember I used to smoke, and my first cigarette in the morning with a cup of coffee, my anxiety levels would soar. And you might say, why did I do it? Well, anyone ever smoked, you know why you did it. You're addicted. Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, you can probably tell it's quite a bit later. We're down by the pool in the hotel. And as I said before, I just asked you that question in the last scene. Do you know what I'm talking about? You see, as I said before, I'm not really a social person. This kind of effort, and I'm not going to pan the camera around because there's so many people here and they get a bit iffy about being on camera, and I'm not going to record people unless they want to be on, you know. If they walk past me, that's incidental, it's not my fault. But I'm not crazy about hanging around poolside with hundreds and hundreds of other people. I like, as I said, me solitude when I can dip in and out of it. But can you imagine? Not that you wouldn't put yourself through this. I put myself through this once, where I went to a family hotel on my own, and it wasn't in Thailand, it was in the Canary Islands. I went to a family hotel on my own. It was the biggest mistake in my life. Just, what the hell was I doing there? I mean, what the hell would you be doing here? This is a family place. If you're on your own, I mean, it's Billy No Mates. And that's the kind of place that Pattaya is. You know, Pattaya is a place where you'll find lots of Billy No Mates. So, are you Billy No Mates? And if you are Billy No Mates, you know, I've no qualms about saying that I have been, and sometimes I prefer to be, Billy No Mates. I mean, the older you get, the less friends that you have, because of time. You know, you move on, people die, that's the way it goes. Close friends, I have one or two, and I'm mighty glad to have them, and they know who they are. But if I was here alone, and this is what I hope you think, or hope you know that I'm talking about, if you were here alone in this situation, I mean, come on, you might be around people, and in Pattaya, you are around people, but to be honest with you, if they're anything like me or anything like you, they're the kind of people you don't want to be around. If you know what I mean. Guys out to have a fling and get pissed and get, you know, go the whole 9 yards, as it were. And the things that we don't like about other people are the things that we see in other people that are similar to ourselves. And when I meet someone who is drinking in a bar, if I criticise these guys for drinking in a bar in Pattaya, ogling the girls and going off with a girl, the reason I don't like that is because I see that's the behaviour in myself that I distaste and I don't like. You see, there's lots in this town that will make you unhappy. I'm happy that I'm only going to stay here for less than another 24 hours. We're out of here tomorrow afternoon, back to Bangkok. I couldn't hack it, to be perfectly honest with you. I couldn't hack it. And I don't know how the guys here who live from week to or month to month, on whatever way they have their income coming into Thailand, on their budgeted income, how they keep their body and soul together in a place like this, where somebody said it's a Saturday, every day is I would have said it every day is a Friday, because I prefer Fridays to Saturdays, to be honest with you. Nicer feeling. But every day is a Friday here. And you're living in Cloud Cuckoo Land. And if you're living in Cloud Cuckoo Land, you'll eventually go cuckoo. That's the way it goes. Well, that's the way I see it. And that's the way I feel it. And my heart goes out to each and every one of you who is on your own, surviving in a place like this. And you're probably looking at me now and saying, I don't know what I'm talking about, because everybody's different. I'm different to you, but I'm just letting you know how I feel. And if I feel that I couldn't handle it, that bears credence to what these guys are doing when they realise they can't handle it and they take matters into their own hands. There you go. The reason I made this video at the start was I heard stories, and I heard that there have been many, and I'm going to avoid saying the word, but I've heard that there's a lot of that kind of thing happening in Pattaya, or has been happening in Pattaya recently, and that's what inspired me to make this video. I can safely say that I wouldn't be in Thailand if I was on my own. I've said that before. The reason I came here on my own, but very, very soon after I came here, I met my wife to be, as it was then, and I got into this life. And if it wasn't for her and for my son Harry, I wouldn't have a life here, and I wouldn't want a life here, and I definitely wouldn't want to be on my own in Pattaya, because when you're on your own in Pattaya, you're really on your own. Let me know about your experience. Let me know what you think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If you're living the life of Riley and you're enjoying every single day, you see, if you're in your 20s or 30s, it doesn't really matter, because you've got your whole life in front of you. But if you're an old codger like me, who's finding it more difficult when you get out of bed in the mornings, you're creaking and you're croaking and you're doing all these things, and it's harder to move around. You want your comforts in life. You want your comfort zone. And Pattaya isn't much of a comfort zone unless you can afford the things that bring you comfort. There you go. Anyway, lads, I'm going to go off. Herself and Harry are paddling around the pool. I've been told I can't get into the pool wearing short jeans. It's one of those things. I can't even get into the sea. I can't even get into the sea, which is just over there behind me, in short. That's what she tells me, in short jeans. I wonder why. And the reason I don't wear the apparel that she's packed for me for swimwear is because if you saw them, you'd know what I mean. It reminds me of the scene in Pulp Fiction when John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson were being hosed down by Harvey Keitel and Quentin Tarantino. And the famous words, I don't know if it's Harvey Keitel or Quentin Tarantino, that says, "You look like a couple of dorks." Well, when I put on that swimwear, I look like a dork. And you might say I look like a dork anyway, but I don't care. Anyway, I'm going to press on. I'm going to get myself a Leo. It's happy hour coming up here soon, and I'm going to be very happy. And I hope you're happy wherever you are. But whatever you do, lads, if you haven't done so already, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. Let me know your experience. And if you want me to share your experience, I'll do that. You can send me your experience on email 5timeslucky@gmail.com. That's 5timeslucky@gmail.com. And if you do that, I won't mention your name if you don't want me to, but if you want me to share your experience, I'll be more than happy to do that. Anyway, guys, until then, if you haven't done so already, click the like button, the share button, subscribe button, do all those wonderful things, and I'll bring you back another wonderful video very soon. Thanks for joining me.